Hi, Nick Davies here. I'm going to talk you through the mix of my new single, Redshift Horizon, by Spiral Island, featuring Danielle Ellen. If you haven't yet, check out the song itself. You can check out the YouTube lyric video, or you can find it on Bandcamp, Spotify, etc. Okay, so I have the Reaper project open here. I'm going to walk you through the tracks of the mix and a little bit about how they come together. So starting with the percussion group, we got kick, snare, hats. Kick is the main pulse in this song, and hats and snare are kind of playing supporting roles. And then we have on the first chorus, there's this big percussion part. So what that's doing is emphasizing certain stressed syllables.
Now I want to say goodbye. Let's give this one more try before I cross the Redshift Horizon.
And then a couple other things we have going on here. So there's back hats. So that's a hi-hat sample reversed and with some pitch automation on it. And that's just acting as a little bit of a riser. And then I felt like I needed a little something extra to go along with it. So there's these drum and bass breaks. And putting those together. And then in context, there's kind of two bass tracks, bass high, bass low. So bass high has the low frequencies rolled off and vice versa. The bass low has the high frequencies rolled off. Bass high also has a lot of filter automation on it. And then bass low just gives it the meat that it needs. And the high part is really only happening when there's kind of a rhythmic element to the bass. Whereas, during held chords, the low part can
want to say goodbye.
Just kind of sit underneath. Okay, and then this song has some strings on it. Using Spitfire Audio's BBC Orchestra. So we have the high strings playing the melody. And then the low strings playing a similar rhythm, but outlining some notes from the chords. And then at the end of that, there's a little come down. So that's what they're doing in the first chorus. And then second chorus, the low strings come in a little earlier to go along with the vocals. There's a different string melody. And the reason for that is because I came up with this lead guitar line. There's just guitar with a little overdrive on it. And then I have some delay quantized to the beat. I kind of pre-processed this recording by hand quantizing it to the grid and swapping out individual notes that felt a little bit flubbed. But anyways, once that was in place, the string melody felt like it was clashing a little. It was playing some of the same notes, some notes that were slightly off from each other. So now the strings are kind of doubling what the lead guitar is doing. The synth parts that you hear first thing in the song. Sort of a melodic arpeggio kind of thing, and then it comes back in the last verse, but in a more chill, laid back vibe. going along with that, there's a string or a synth pad, sort of a trance rhythm with a lot of filter automation on it. And then the other synth part is the second verse. And this is basically doubling the bass rhythm. And then all of those synth parts feed into a delay track and a reverb track. And both of those are kind of sidechained as well. And then there's a piano part in the chorus. It's kind of just held out chords in every measure. Those are feeding into the synth reverb as well. And then we have a few tracks of pads. So first off, this is created by strumming big chords on the auto harp, and then the auto harp is plugged into reverb guitar pedals. So I recorded each chord and then chopped off the front bit because when you strum an auto harp, a lot of the strings are being deadened, and it creates this very percussive sound at the beginning of the chord that didn't sound great going through reverb. Cut that off, and the rest is just kind of this floaty, very lush chord. And then a similar approach, playing guitar through a lot of effects and reverb, and then just taking a slice of each chord. And then in the chorus, there's a small pad for distorted guitar. And then I felt like there needed to be a little more of a rise into the chorus parts, so I took that distorted guitar and reversed it and emphasized some of the more noisy frequencies and gave it some automation to have this kind of rise effect. Cool, and then on to vocals, the biggest group. So we've got both lead vocals. We've got a harmony vocal.
I want to say goodbye. Let's give this one more try.
As you can see, this isn't super natural sounding. It's kind of flattened out. Had to make a decision about can't really have both vocals take the foreground to an equal extent. So this one went through a lot of editing to get the timing tight with the lead vocal.
Now
it just kind of sits underneath.
Want to say goodbye. Let's give this one more try.
And then in the second chorus, there's also a higher harmony that was created just by pitch shifting Danielle's lead vocal. Very much not natural sounding on its own. But then if you hear the intonation,
it's already too late. The chasm grows too great. Polite to reach across a redshift horizon.
Kind of adds some richness. And then there's a couple spots in the second verse where Danielle and I are singing the same note in unison, and that caused kind of the fundamental frequencies of the notes to pile up a bit, and it was influencing how things came together in the mix. So those particular phrases got put on separate tracks where you could have a little bit of a subtle low cut of those frequencies. But here's just
messages I kept everyone. The latency increased with every single.
And then after that we have this little moment with the pings. These aren't done with delay, it's just us singing ping ping and some automation on the pan to get it to swap sides for each one.
Until we
Okay, and then we have the woes. I did 6 of these. Danielle did 4. There was a lot of editing to get the timing of them aligned. I think it ends up being pretty cohesive, even though if you kind of listen to an individual one, I'm doing kind of a funny voice to make it sound like it's not all me doing this. And not being very careful about pitch because I want some spread, want some variety. And unlike the other vocal tracks, these each have individual reverb plugins on them. They're panned to different spots in the stereo field to really feel like there's a whole crowd of people in front of you singing together. And then we have a similar treatment on these high ahs. And then all of those vocal tracks feed into this vocal reverb. It's kind of sidechained to the vocals themselves and sidechained to a bunch of other stuff, so it kind of takes a backseat to everything else, but it's just to be there. It just pops through when it can and sits in the background otherwise. In terms of other mixing going on here, so percussion kind of takes precedence over a lot of other things. So both bass tracks are sidechained to the percussion so that the thump of the bass, of the kick drum can come through. A lot of these tracks also have an effect called duck on them, which is just kind of this sidechain kind of thing to also give it that pulse. A lot of stuff is sidechained to the percussion, so the lead guitar, the pads, even the vocal lows and the vocal reverb. Otherwise, the bass low isn't sidechained to anything. It needs to be part of the pulse and part of the, you can't have it ducking in and out. The bass high also takes a back seat to the vocals, and the pads kind of sit behind other things. So the piano is having it during the chorus. It's happening at the start of each chord, and it just happens that once. So I feel like it's important that other things not get in front of it during those moments where it's really supposed to be audible. So there's a lot of sidechaining going on here, and it kind of means that when you export the mix and you get it ready to be mastered, I mean, it's halfway there already. It's got a lot of the traffic merging issues already worked out. And so mastering can be kind of a lighter touch in the case of a song like this. Anyways, I hope that was interesting, and I hope you'll check out the song, and see you next time.